Welcome to the Wealth Transfer with TC. Today I am continuing my series on the Bitcoin and crypto market cycle that is ending soon. If you guys saw my last couple of videos about this, the first one was the Bitcoin market cycle ending soon, bull run, one step ahead, prepare for crypto winter. And the other video was the historical 80% Bitcoin crypto crash is coming and the cycle's ending soon. Right, and that crypto winter is coming. And I've been doing these videos because, folks, last time we missed out on selling off and taking profit. Right, we were told by certain prophets that Bitcoin would reach 100,000, and it didn't. And also, altcoins like Shiba Inu would reach pennies on the dollar going into 2022, and that did not happen. So we were all holding when the markets were actually in a downturn. And so we're not going to repeat that mistake. And a lot of the people that I am listening to and watching, they are watching close for the Bitcoin top. They're watching close for the Ethereum top. They're watching for altcoin season ramping up and then the end of it. And we are not going to miss it this time because of somebody's false prophetic words or the crypto community's trying to hype you up. And I foresee a lot of people making a lot of mistakes holding on because they're listening to the wrong people. So in those last videos, I shared how, according to the charts and the historical patterns, Bitcoin's all-time high and the altcoin season ends in Q4. Right? You can see here that, according to the historical pattern, the top of Bitcoin always reaches in Q4 in the 4-year cycle. So we are approaching that. And same again, doesn't matter what chart you look at, there are various charts that people have put together to share that information. Normally we have a pullback in September. We haven't seen that pullback because there's a lot of positive news right now. So we still could get some pullback. We have all these things going on with the SEC and crypto ETFs. This is something that we haven't had before and that could affect the market cycle. Right, so I want to make that clear. Just because the history shows Q4 doesn't mean that crypto won't go out further. Also, we need to address the Bitcoin crash. And in that last video, I shared that it took a year with some black swan events, the Luna and crypto banks closing down and the FTX, all within a year, all those events happened that took Bitcoin from 69,000 all the way down to 15,600. But it took 1 year. People's crypto getting confiscated or being frozen. And all those issues could return again in this next crypto cycle. Because it's going to be very important. Again, folks, you're going to have a lot of people telling you things that are not true, and you're going to end up holding, and you're going to have to wait till after the crash is over to benefit. You're going to have to definitely wait a year at least. We've all been waiting since November of 2021, right? When Bitcoin reached its high and then people were saying it's going to go to 100,000, we all got bamboozled. So I also want to talk about how the altcoin season does not last no more than 40 days according to history. And that's very important. We are not seeing the runs that we had in 2021, like Shiba Inu ran from January to October. You know, you put in $100 and you make millions of dollars, right? We're not seeing that this year, and I think a lot of it just has to do with people just, they're not focused on it. The community isn't focused like it used to. We're not hearing the news from the Shiba Inu team like we used to. That is, it's going to be hard to see Shiba Inu reach a penny or even $1 this crypto cycle, but I believe it could happen after this market crash, the crypto and the stock market, when things seem at their worst, the dinar will revalue, and that right there is going to bring in more wealth over the long term than you will ever see in the history of the markets. So a community member posted this Twitter post about the crypto cycle and also about how the altcoin season doesn't last no more than 40 days. And so this account is called Phantom DeFi on Twitter. And I'm just going to read and share with you the things that were being said so you have a better understanding of what could happen in the future. So Phantom DI, he posted this on August the 25th. Bitcoin and Ethereum hit all-time highs. but the real run hasn't started. I spent 19 hours digging into past cycles, found exact altcoin season start and end dates. What's next will shock you. So Bitcoin is already at a new all-time high. Ethereum is holding near its own peak. Meanwhile, most altcoins are still lagging and barely moving. This exact setup happened in both 2017 and 2021. Alt season always comes later. Let's break down what's next. Now, what I want to say to that is that doesn't mean that individual cryptos won't make a run outside of altcoin season. Just like with Shiba Inu. There was a lot of speculation with Shiba Inu dealing with Elon Musk and Vitalik Buterin and all that stuff that was going around in 2021. In 2017, Bitcoin rallied from April to December, peaking on December the 17th. Bitcoin dropped from 70% to 60% within weeks, signaling alt strength. A powerful one-month altcoin season followed, peaking in January of 2018. Just a week later, alts began to lose 20 to 30% daily. So altcoin season went into January of 2018 while Bitcoin reached its peak in the previous month. But after the altcoin season, coins were losing 20 to 30% daily. So imagine having a coin, just say for instance, if Shiba Inu went to $1. I'm just using them as an example, or ETN went to $1. And the next thing you know, it was 80 cents. And then 60 cents the next day. And then 50 cents the day after that. So you understand that those are some of the things that people are going to see, but what's going to happen is people are going to say, hold on, it's going to go higher, right? That's going to be one of the big problems in the crypto space. It's not just dealing with prophetic, but also you're going to have a lot of YouTubers that are going to pump you up. In 2021, Bitcoin rallied from May to November, topping at 69,000 on November the 10th. Bitcoin collapsed 70 to 38% in 1 month. ETH in large caps exploded. Altcoins peaked 28 days later in December of 2021. Then came an instant reversal and a full-blown crash. All right, so I remember what happened in 2021 and 2022. It was very devastating to the entire wealth transfer community. The pattern is clear. BTC moves first with high dominance. Then comes a short ETF, large cap rally with capital rotation. Only after that do we get alt season, lasting 30 to 40 days max. And it ends suddenly without warning signs. So who is selling off when this happens? It's going to be the whales. It's going to be the people reading the charts. You know, all the people that have made millions and billions of dollars in this altcoin season, they're going to start selling off. And you're not going to have time to be like, Lord, do I need to sell off all these different cryptocurrencies? You're going to need to know when to sell off each investment that you have. So it's going to be important to be following people who are talking about some of the investments that you're in. If you rely 100% on the prophetic, you will fail just like we did in 2021 and 2022. Right now, the cycle looks almost identical to before. Bitcoin has already made its main move. ETH is above 4,200. I expect ETH to push towards 6,000 in the coming weeks. Once that happens, the altcoin season clock will start ticking. So what he is saying is that when Ethereum hits 6,000, right, that's when altcoin season clock will start moving. Why is altcoin season short? Because liquidity is finite. Capital first flows into ETH and top caps, then trickles down. Mid caps and low caps pump hardest but burn out fastest. The whole window rarely stays open for more than 3 to 5 weeks. So this is a warning, folks, that when this happens and you need to start selling off, don't start putting a bunch of your profit into coins that aren't going to go anywhere, because I just foresee that happening. Bitcoin is already showing signs of rolling over. That's a signal money is starting to rotate into alts. In the past, this always triggered aggressive mid-cap rallies, but these phases almost always end abruptly. Unlike 2017 and 2021, institutions are now heavily involved. BlackRock, Fidelity, and others buy BTC and Ethereum, mostly OTC. That mutes volatility for majors, but it doesn't prevent altcoin rotations from happening. So what he's saying is that since BlackRock is buying it OTC over the counter, it's not having that much effect on the markets itself. And I guarantee, though, when it comes to selling, it will. The danger is most traders wait too long to take profit. By the time sentiment flips, liquidity disappears instantly. A 50% drop in a week isn't rare for overheated alts. That's why timing matters more than ever this cycle. Now, folks, we have seen this happen over and over again, where we see coins run up to 50 cents, and then within a few days, they're back at 25 cents. Coins will run up to $1, and next thing you know it, they're back down to 60 cents. We've seen it over and over again. We saw it in 2024, and we've seen it here in 2025. And so we also saw it back in the last crypto cycle. My plan is simple. Ride Ethereum and large caps into the peak, rotate into top performing alts during the first days of outbreak, exit before December ends to avoid the inevitable crash, sell while it's going up because you won't when it starts going down. So folks, during this time period, I just want you to really be watchful and adamant about all of your investments. Now, I've shared this in my group. I think I may have shared it in one of the videos, but didn't really talk about it. But going back to 2021, when Bitcoin reaches all-time high November 10th of 2021, Ethereum hit its all-time high in the same month. Binance actually hit their all-time high 7 months before Bitcoin did. Right, so that was May 10th of 2021. Cardano was September, 2 months before Bitcoin did. Solana was in the same month, a few days before Bitcoin did. Dogecoin was on May the 8th when it hit its all-time high, and that was fueled by Elon Musk, right? So that was 6 months before Bitcoin. Polkadot, November, the same month, a few days before Bitcoin did. Avalanche was also the same month, but 11 days after Bitcoin reached its all-time high, but also in the same month. Shiba Inu reached its all-time high in October. Its run actually started in January, right? But that was also fueled by a lot of speculation, Shibarium, Satoshi, and you had Ryoshi and other entities that were more involved in speaking on the project. That was a different era when it comes to Shiba Inu. Matic reaches all-time high in December, a month and a half after Bitcoin did. And Terra Luna, which is now Luna Classic, same thing. It reaches all-time high in December of 2021, 1.5 months after Bitcoin. So even though a lot of other coins were falling, some were still moving. So you have to be really watchful and careful. And whatever investment that you're in, if nobody's talking about it, you need to find somebody who is talking about it and watching for its all-time high. I have over 100 different cryptocurrencies. Some I have a lot invested in, some I just have a little bit. When it comes to some of my larger holdings, I still want to make sure that I try to sell closer to the top and don't get caught up when your altcoin drops by 20 to 30% in one day, right? That could mean a lot. If you have $1 million and it drops 30% in one day, so now you have 700,000 instead of 1 million. That's how important this is. And so, yes, we should be seeking the Lord on all this, and you should be listening to what the prophetic voices, the most accurate prophetic voices are saying. But I foresee a lot of people will not. They will listen to the same people that got them all messed up in this last crypto cycle, missing out. And a lot of people are going to be hurt. And then you're going to have to wait until things crash and then move back up again. But we're expecting all the markets to crash. I'm expecting Bitcoin to go from anywhere from all-time high from 124,000 to the 175,000 mark. Now, there are people that have spoken prophetically. Christopher Harris said Bitcoin begin to descend from the 111,000 mark when ETN was around $1.50. I believe now that this could be the last chance to sell. Because if Bitcoin does go up to the 170,000 mark, it's very possible that it could come back down to that mark. You know, it's been floating around the 111,000 mark for a while now. And then you have Q that said he saw it go to 133,000 and he sold everything off according to prophetic dream. And then we have Christopher Harris, who didn't give a date, just said he saw it at 177,000. And then Prophetess Rosen Solomon said she saw it at 175,000. So all this remains to be seen, right? Anybody else I don't really care about because they're inaccurate. Some of the prophetic people I listen to are more accurate than everybody else combined. They're not perfect, but we can't just go by the prophetic. We're also going to go by history and what the chart readers are saying, watching if BlackRock starts dumping cryptocurrency or other major entities. Or we're also looking for crypto black swan events. Imagine, just say for instance, a major exchange gets hacked. Right? Those are the things that could happen that could cause the markets to drop. And like I said, folks, it's going to take, if we go by history, it's going to take some time for the markets to go down to its bottom. But we're also looking for other black swan events that's going to affect the stock market too as well. We're talking about the war in Russia and all the other events that could come out of that. The Israel, Iran, and U.S. war could break out. There's so many other things that could happen. Right? And we've discussed those in previous videos. Have another major FTX. That's why when you're taking profit, where are you going to store your cash? Are you going to put it on platforms like Fidelity where it can't get hacked? You know, basically, like if you have money on Fidelity, Fidelity doesn't get targeted for hacks. And there's a reason for that. There's a reason why they go after crypto. So whether you have cash or whether you have stable coins, you could probably store those actually like on platforms like Fidelity or just store it in the bank. I don't believe the banks are going to confiscate your money, as one so-called prophet is saying. That's completely out of line with what we've known for years from real prophets. So that's all that I have for this today. I thank you guys for listening. God bless.